Welcome, music fans. This is another edition of Track versus Track. I am one of your co-hosts, Matthew Jensen, and with me today we have Jacob Rosdale, familiar face, if you've watched our previous episodes, and we have a special guest and a huge Huey Lewis in the News fan, a huge fan, Mr. AJ Hodgeman. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. Well, we are going to be...
Hello. Oh yeah, we're going to talk Hugh. We're going to talk about AJ and how much he loves the Hugh. But first, I wanted to just talk about the format of our episode, because normally Matt and I go 10-1 top tracks, and that's what we're going to do. But with three people, that would take a long time. So instead, we're going to start with Heart of Rock and Roll, work our way from side A to side 2 to the end of the album. Talk about if the tracks are near the top, near the bottom, very end, just run down our lists. And that way we're not going on. You mentioned this, he mentioned it, I'm now mentioning it. We're not doing that. We're just going track by track and then track the track. AJ.
I'm in.
How you doing?
That's my man. That's my guy, Huey. I've been a Huey fan since the day I can remember remembering.
What a chin. So were your parents huge Huey fans?
Yeah, my dad was. I just remember he would always have, most likely it was sports, like the cassette on in the car. And he'd always sing along. And those are some of the best memories I have with my pops, is just sitting in the car listening to Huey.
And Matt, where do you fall on the news train?
Well, I had one sibling and she was older than me, and she was a huge MTV fan. So growing up in the 80s, you couldn't avoid videos from this album and the following album. And I think I never loved it. I always liked the songs. And then in the 90s, I kind of forgot about it. And then in the early 2000s, I kind of started getting back into it. I think a lot of it was just remembering AJ. So all three of us, we went to college together. And I remember AJ, and even maybe at the beginning of social media, would post a lot of stuff about Huey Lewis. And, it's like, I need to give these guys an actual listen. And I became obsessed with this album. I think the summer of 2005 or 2006, I was out of college at that time. And it was in the summer, and it was sitting out in the back porch, drinking beers, grilling, hanging out with friends. And this became kind of the soundtrack of that summer. And ever since then, I've got a soft spot for it, but my roots aren't as deep as AJ's, but it was certainly one that I was aware of, for 35, 40 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't realize I was an inspiration for your revisit to Huey world, if we will.
So I'm
glad I could do that.
So I was alive in the 80s, and I like Back to the Future. For a while, I thought that was going to be the only Huey album I have or need. And then I bought this because we were doing the episode. I have not had it very long. And so I was roommates with AJ, or suite mates rather. And then my roommate Ed Hahn was a big Huey fan, but I've never really cared for the band all that much. It's not a dislike, it's just an indifference. And I'd never listened to this album, but I've been in waiting rooms at the dentist or the doctor, so I'm familiar with most of the tracks on this. And most of these were singles, so it wasn't a very hard album to acclimate myself to. So this wasn't that hard of hard work.
I think you said, did you say 5? Jensen?
5 out of 9.
5 out of the 9 are singles. Yeah, that's fairly uncommon, I would say.
Well, yeah, and if you take into consideration, I'm glad you brought up Back to the Future. If you take into consideration Power of Love and Back in Time, which were recorded within a year of this, I mean, and that production sounds slick, like it would go on sports, because those singles were in between 4 and sports. So quite a prolific period of time there for the News. But for whatever reason too, and maybe you guys think this is totally in left field here, but I always thought when I was a kid that Robert Palmer and Huey Lewis were the same band or the same person, because their music just sounded identical to me, and I couldn't separate the two. Simply Irresistible. Oh, that's a Huey Lewis and the News song. Or Addicted to Love. That's a Huey.
Addicted to Love, I would say, is definitely in the same vein as Huey is. I mean, you could put that song up to like Hip to Be Square or something, and they just have that same 80s pop rock sound,
Right. And I know a lot of people, from what I've read, is like he's kind of a slicker version of Springsteen, but I don't hear that as much. I mean, Born in the USA production wise has that definite 80s sound and the synth stuff, but I find like these guys tend to be more like Jay Giles band of the 80s. A little bit more of a bar band, a party band, whereas Bruce is even the Born in the USA album. Did I say Born to Run? I meant Born in the USA. The Born in the USA album tends to be a little bit more singer-songwriting. But
Huey's definitely a bar band. That's where they started. Is right. They played the bar scene around, and then I think the reason they just got popular enough, and they finally decided to go into the studio, and then I think they spent a lot of time getting booed on stage. I think like one of their very first tours, they opened for the Doobie Brothers, and they were booed the whole tour because nobody wanted to hear Huey in the News. They wanted the Doobies right away. So I found that very funny. And now they're still good friends and everything like that. And I probably should mention I've seen Huey Lewis in concert like 7 times in my lifetime. So his live shows are very fun.
Anymore though, right? He's got like tinnitus or something.
Well, he's got a disease. Yeah, it's called Meniere's disease. It's very rare. Yeah. And basically he can't hear music. He can't hear frequencies or tones anymore. So it just anytime like a guitar will play or a bass will play, he just hears like muffled noise. So he can't find pitch. So it's a very sad deal. They had to cancel their tour because they just released that new Weather album. And they only got to do 7 songs on that because they couldn't finish it because his, disease affected production.
Oh,
so kind of a sad deal, but he's embraced it. He's talked about it a lot. So
I can't hear.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
He's still a hunk though, right?
What's that?
He's still a hunk though. I mean, look at
those.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Look at that. He's a handsome fella.
Look at those people.
So are those the same album, the same version, just 2 copies?
Oh yeah, I was telling you this the other day. I picked one up a long time ago, and I must have picked the other one up like 10 years ago. But one has a matte finish, and one is a flat finish. So, and same with the inner sleeve. One has a glossy kind of matte finish to it. The other one is a flat kind of.
Wonder if one's a reprint.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, I think they're both. Well, the only discernible difference is I think this one might be like a record club edition because there's this stamp here on the back. But I looked at the inner groove and all the right. It looks like they were both pressed at the same plant, but this one has like this R coating on the bottom. You probably can't see it, but this one.
Yeah, I don't have that.
That means it's special.
What I like about this cover, by the way, is they're in a bar, sports bar, I assume. But on the back, oh, where'd they go? They're on the TV.
Yeah, well, the bass player.
This guy behind doing one of these deals.
I think that's the bass player.
Well, they can't play without the bass player. Just a silly album cover. Just ridiculous, unbelievable.
Yeah,
that pretty much sums up my feeling about Huey and the News. It's just cheese. It's just a cornball thing.
It's pure energy, I would say it's raw energy. They just love what they do, and it comes through in all their performances, especially if you've ever seen them live. I mean, it's great. You just feed off of their energy on stage, and it transfers out to you in the crowd. It's a cool thing to experience.
Kind of a blue-eyed James Brown type of vibe too, right?
Yeah, yes, very much so.
Well, let's talk about a track that I'm sure kills live. It is track 1 on Sports, The Heart of Rock and Roll. What do you guys feel about that track? Is it near the top of your list? Does it get buried near the bottom?
It's near the top of mine.
It's definitely near the top of mine. That's a classic song. The minute you hear that heartbeat thump intro, you know exactly what song you're getting.
Yeah.
And then it's a relatable song too. All the location call outs and everything that he's talking about, places for people. It's it's great. Oh, we have a guest. We have another guest.
Yeah, we have another guest. What's up?
Can I?
No, you can't play piano right now.
No, when I this time.
Only if it's Huey Lewis and the
Yeah, you
News.
can watch this when it's posted on
Rip
YouTube.
into a solo from Honky Tonk Blues.
All right.
And then I'm gonna subscribe.
Yeah, she's gonna subscribe.
Oh, good. Like and subscribe. Click the
Great,
button.
subscribe. I'll just get to it. This is my number 9 track. The Hard Rock and
Oh,
Roll.
oh.
Because I don't like songs about rock and roll after the 1950s. I think you covered that. Bill Haley and the Comets covered that. I can't think of one song about rock and roll. Not Bob Seger, not Kiss.
Joan Jett.
That one's a little yeah. But I also don't really care. I like Joan Jett, but I don't really care for that song. I don't like people talking about what they're doing. And it's like being on, and that's going to come up again, believe me, with Huey. Also, I don't like songs where the names of cities are shouted out. I also don't like Dancing in the Streets, particularly the Bowie and Mick Jagger version.
So you want no real life in your songs.
I don't want to be reminded about how much rock and roll is everywhere and how much fun it is to play rock and roll, because I can't play rock and roll. I am not musically gifted, and these guys are just rubbing it in how much fun it is. Are they from Ohio? Is that where the Cleveland thing? No.
No. Huey's from California. They're talking about the
Those
Rock
are-
and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland.
Oh. Is he in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Ironically enough, they've never been nominated to this day.
Kissing up doesn't get you anywhere.
And even
right,
on
no-
that, we talked about the 30th edition of this album that came out with a live concert of the whole album in full. And they performed that at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland.
But they
In
still don't.
Cleveland.
And they're still not in there.
All
It's
right.
a dang shame.
Should we say where we put that song on our
Oh.
respective lists?
It was my number 9.
Yeah, so it's my number 3 actually. It cracks my top 3. I've always liked it. I'm totally with you on the naming off of cities thing. I mean, it totally has that.
Yeah, I can't agree with you on that. Yes, it's a little bit. It's a bit much. Yes.
It's got that "we didn't start the fire" thing, and it's the end of the world as we know it, which is naming off random stuff. Like the lyrics are really juvenile, but it's funky, and I like the little rock and roll teases at the end when it gets into like the outro of the song or the coda of the song, and you can hear like a little bit like a little Jimi Hendrix tease or a little bit of a Funky Town tease.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a top one for me for sure. But yeah, lyrically, it's probably the worst. But it's number 3 for me.
For
AJ,
me,
where's it?
it's at number 4. It's not as high. It's at number 4. It's in the top 4. So on a track on such a short track list, it's really hard to rank all of these. I found so it's not my all-time favorite on this album. It's a lot better songs on here, so that's why I put it number 4.
So another single, track number 2 is Heart and Soul. I like this song better. I like the crunchy guitars in it. It actually feels like it's a rock and roll song that's not about rock and roll. But I like Heart and Soul, and I'm not going to be a Grinch on that one. Where do you guys land on it?
Go ahead, Jensen.
Well, and this is funny because AJ and I started talking a couple months ago when I did a album versus album track by track, and you must have watched it because it was a sports, and I forget what it was up against, but I made a comment like Heart and Soul is like kind of a forgettable track, and in the comments you were like, "What the hell are you talking about?" that was a bit of an exaggeration, but it's honestly a middle of the road song for me, and it's of the 5 singles off this album, it's my least favorite. So I have that song at number 5.
Oh, okay.
Number 5 for me as well. It's in the middle.
I dig the that kind of theme that goes throughout. I mean, lyrically it's probably higher quality than it's definitely higher quality than Heart of Rock and Roll. But this is of course a cover written by a band called Exile, which I'm not familiar with.
So
Get a lot of Exile albums.
I have an interesting story about that, actually. Jensen, I watched an interview with Huey. They did a brand new behind the music, I believe, on the new Paramount Plus. They brought
Cool.
back behind the music for that platform. And Huey was one of the first episodes they did. And evidently, Heart and Soul was recorded by Exile first, but Huey, it was kind of a song that was being shopped around to different artists. So, you know, it's common practice that, you know, you just shop a song around, see which artist it sticks with, and then they end up, you know, cutting that song and it's theirs. So I think how it goes was Exile was in the same studio as Huey and the guys, like just down the hall. Huey walked down there, heard them recording the same song that they were recording, and Huey liked his version. He thought their version was better, so they kept going with it, and then it ended up being, you know, one of their most popular songs. And it's not all that different than the Exile version, but I obviously prefer the Huey version.
What's your number ranking of it?
This one is actually in my top 3. This one's number 3 for me. I love this song, mainly because Chris Hayes is a monster on the guitar. And this song is all guitar, basically, from the start of the song all the way to the solo that just is killer in the middle. So I love the guitar and the instrumentation on it. The band is so tight.
Anybody have strong feelings about Bad is Bad?
I'll kick this one off.
All right.
So the way I consume this album now, I said, like, I really kind of sunk my teeth into it that summer, a couple years after college, just as kind of like a backyard barbecuing, drinking beers album. How I consume this album now is I've got like 20, 30 different albums that I'll throw on if I'm going to exercise, like go on a stationary bike or something like that, when I know that every song is going to keep my legs moving. I mentioned something about that with the B-52s, something that has kind of a consistently up-tempo delivery, no really lulls in there, because when you're trying to exercise and sustain like momentum, those softy tracks or whatever, those slow tracks really kind of break your spirit. And so this is one I grab if I'm just kind of like, you know, I got 45 minutes. I gotta get an exercise in before work. I need something that's gonna keep me going. I grab sports a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So this song, to me, is such a dip in energy. I mean, it's a 50s style. This is so
Doo-wop.
Doo-wop, right? So Huey Lewis and the News, they flirt between new wave and like 50s retro rock, and sometimes a little bit of sneering punk, but generally kind of a glossy, just bar band sound. This song, I do like doo-wop, but man, the all the vocals, the lack of instrumentation, it just kind of brings me down. And listening to it, if it wasn't for how I consume this album, which is usually when exercising, I probably would rank it higher. But as a result, I'm going to put this right after Heart and Soul. So I'm going to give this a ranking of a couple actually. I'm going to give this a number 8. Number 8. So
I get your reasoning on that. And it is such a departure from their usual energy. And they actually make a point to do that in their live shows too, where they do a whole like 15-minute a cappella set. They do like 3 songs and it's all a cappella. And it does kind of, you know, you're right. It's like the bathroom break time, you know.
Look at them.
And but what I love about this song is I think this is one of my favorite lyrical tunes, is because he's talking about how, you know, sometimes bad is bad. It's not, you know, it's not always cool to be bad. But, you know, he's talking about somebody being bad at the guitar or eating bad soup or a bad buffet somewhere, you know, like, I don't know. It's humorous.
What it's about.
Yeah, that's what the song's about.
It's like it's hip to be square, and bad is bad.
Bad is bad, you know. You keep it real simple.
Yeah, I don't have much to add.
It's playful in that way, but this one is on the lower end of mine too. I think I got it at 6.
It's my 6 too. I don't have much to add to it. It's just in the lesser half of the album for me. And the doo-wops make me roll my eyes a little bit now that I know that they do it acoustic or acapella.
Fun fact though, I play in a cover band and we do cover this song.
Are there any tracks on this you don't cover?
No, we actually I'm amazed that we can actually play. I just playing a duo, so for us to pull that off, but it's not like to bring back in the lack of music, musicality in this song it's a drum machine the whole
Okay.
time. It's a drum machine with a bass and a little bit of guitar, and that's really all it is.
This one really, too, I think lives in the 80s. Just the production of the vocals reminds me of Taco's Putting on the Ritz. It just has that
Yeah.
voice quality to it,
Yeah.
But sure, yeah.
Clothing Outside one, we have I Want a New Drug. The track, when I was listening to this, and not the record, I was listening to it on my phone in the car. Even my daughter was like, Ghostbusters. But clearly it's not Ghostbusters.
Mhm.
But
Well, and there's a whole story with that too.
yeah, we know the story.
But everybody
Yeah.
knows it.
We know the story. He didn't want to write the theme to Ghostbusters, and Ray Parker Jr. did.
Yeah.
But I like this song. I mean, I'm not going to be a hater on this one. It's in my top 3. I like the lyrics. It talking about the effects of drugs, but it's a love song, and he's like, I want a drug that makes me feel the way I feel when I'm with you, and that is a pretty good guitar riff. I actually saw that I didn't know the guitarist's name was Hayes, but he's the credited co-writer.
Yes.
Huey on this song.
So fun fact about this song is Huey wrote it on a napkin in like 10 minutes. Chris Hayes came up with that guitar riff and then the idea, and then boom, it was off and it was done.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
And this song, like the Heart of Rock and Roll, it teases a bunch of classic rock riffs too. Like there's that Purple Haze at the end. So where do you put it?
I love this song because of the riff. It's instantly recognizable. I mean, you hear it, but it's kind of somewhat tainted because of the whole Ghostbusters thing. It's one of my go-to karaoke songs, but I knock it because it's got the longest instrumental break in the history of songs, I think. I don't know. It's like a 2.5-minute instrumental break. It feels like it's forever. So it kind of gets knocked a little bit for that. So I think I put this one at 5. Did I already say my 5? I think it's at 5 for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're clear.
Well, for me, this was either going to be 1 or 2, and I'm back and forth all day long on this one. And I ended up settling with this. This is my favorite song off the album. And and that's funny that you say that about karaoke, because we're all kind of like tenors or whatever. And Huey Lewis, you've got to have some chops to sing the range of these songs, even though his vocals have kind of a texture to them or a bit of distortion where it's deceiving how high those songs, how high this repertoire is.
Until you try to sing it.
Until you try to sing it, right? and I think I did do this at karaoke one time, and I was kicking ass, and then I was like, oh God, there's like a 2-minute break here.
Yeah, then you lose all the steam, and then what do? I don't even know. Like, I think Huey even live, I think he just leaves the stage during that instrumental break.
Yeah, so yeah, never again do I sing that one. But there is a couple of Huey Lewis songs that are frequent karaoke ones for me. But yeah, I just love this song. It's like the perfect song. And as a child, my favorite song, ironically, was Ghostbusters theme. And they're identical songs basically.
Yeah.
Do I like this? And actually, this is a question for you two. Which song do you like better, Ghostbusters or I Want a New Drug?
I Want a New Drug. Easily.
I have to say I Want a New Drug just because I love Huey so much, but I feel like I'm disrespecting my love for Ghostbusters by saying that. But Ray Parker's joked about how the only reason that, since Huey didn't do it, he stayed up all night just listening to Huey Lewis and the News. And that's why the song came out the way it did, because he knew that Huey had passed on it. But they wanted a song that was like a Huey song. And that's what he gave them.
I prefer Bobby Brown's song from Ghostbusters 2, On Our Own.
Oh, that's a great song. That's a great song. That's a great song. I had both of those soundtracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And actually, my favorite song off the original Ghostbusters soundtrack is the song by the Bus Boys called "Cleaning Up the Town."
Yes, love Ghostbusters, cleaning up
Well,
the
we have to do a
town.
Ghostbusters soundtrack
It
episode.
sounds like it.
Oh, well, that's the next one, I guess. We already know.
We got one.
Oh no, now we're gonna go on Ghostbusters tangent.
Yeah, it's my number one though, and I feel fairly confident, but number two's close.
Side 2 brings us to Walking on a Thin Line. This is my number 2.
Wow.
Because I just I like how it starts with like I think it's a keyboard bassy synth. It's almost like kind of emo to the lyrics. He's talking about curse in the dark.
That pulse, it's got a nice pulse to it.
And it's a working man's tune. I think I saw that he didn't write this one. This is one of the few that he's not a credited writer on. Somebody named Pessis and Wells.
I believe this is a song about veterans coming back from the war and trying to fit in.
Yeah, there we go. That makes a lot of sense, actually. But I kind of liked it. I like his.
And that's
vocals
one
in
of the
the
reasons why I
chorus.
like it, is because he actually is singing about an issue. You know, he's singing about that issue that, you know, nobody really writes songs about.
It was a lot deeper than I thought it was. I thought
It is. It's a deep song
cut.
for a band like Huey and the News, and that's why it's toward the top of my list as well.
Oh,
I've got it at number 2.
oh yeah, too. Oh.
Yeah.
Matt.
I've got it at number 4 because it has a good strong melody, good strong beat. But you guys are talking about how like, oh, he's actually writing lyrics that have like some meaning. But you know what? He didn't write the damn song.
He's singing it. He's singing it. I get it. Yeah, he did not write it.
So the band that apparently wrote the song is called Clover, and which I'm not familiar with.
Oh,
but,
that was Huey's first band before he was with Huey Lewis and the News.
well, there you go. And the writers are Andre Pessis and Kevin Wells of Clover. So those must have been his bandmates. But
If
yeah,
you're curious, he played harmonica in that band and sang backing vocals. He rarely sang front vocals.
Interesting. Yeah, I like it. By the way, if you YouTube this song, I think the very first, if you just type "Walking on a Thin Line" and not like Huey Lewis in the News, "Walking on a Thin Line," if you just type in "Walking on a Thin Line," I think it's a performance of Chris Berman from ESPN singing it at like some ESPY Awards or something like that.
Oh, awesome.
He really gets into it. And honestly, I think I prefer Chris Berman. No,
I do know that Berman is a huge Huey fan because he was one of the famous people in the new video that they had all the cameos in for the newest song, off Weather. He's in there
I
singing
get it now. Sports and weather. I didn't get it.
Yep. You picked up on the theme. That's exactly what the point. Yep.
Got it. All right. Another one I'm not a fan of is Finally Found a Home.
Oh.
Because it's about living on the stage.
I feel like Jensen might have something to say about that.
It's just so cheap. Like, so do you know where his home is? Do you know where his home is? Answer it for me.
You're back to not wanting him to sing about what he's doing and where he's at.
Where is his home? Where is his home?
It's in a song.
It's in a song. Living on the stage, singing a song. He's finally at home. I don't like people singing about what they're currently doing. So it's my number 8.
Oh, number 8.
It's near the bottom, but I assume you guys like it more. I could see it if you're more resistant to cheese than I am.
Well, see, so for me, I'll go real quick here, Jensen, then I'll hand it over to you. But for me, this song, it's actually my favorite song on the album. It's because it's
you're at home when you're on the stage.
It's because I can relate to that song so much, is because I know that Huey's writing about, he's getting tired of people asking him what he's going to be when he grows up. And he finally, he wrote this song to tell them he wants to be, he finally found his home, and it's on the stage and it's in music, and that's where he wants to be. And so I relate to that on on my own personal level. So that's why, I have it as my number 1. And it's a great melody. It's a deep cut. Not many people even know about this song. So I like to bring the deep cuts to light.
Matt.
I know if I screwed this up, Jacob, you'll notice this in post-production. I apologize. Whenever I put Heart and Soul, this song and actually goes ahead of that. So if I said Heart and Soul was 5,
You did.
it should have been 6, and this is 5.
Okay.
And I do like the song, but you got to understand, I'm coming from a place like AJ where I like most every song on this album.
Yeah.
And it has to go somewhere. I just don't think it's as good as the 4 in front of it. Because it was like, could this be better than Walking on a Thin Line? No, I honestly think I like Walking on a Thin Line a little bit better. So yeah, Heart and Soul is 6. I totally screwed that up, but I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, lyrically,
People are used to it at this point.
and I think I said when I did that track versus track with this and another album, I think I said like how much I really liked it, and because it is such a dark horse, no one talks about it, and I think the song it was going up against was like a single or a hit. I think whatever album it was, but yeah, I like it. It's just it's an upbeat song, makes you feel good, but middle of the road song for me.
So we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, track 7, which I believe was a single. If This Is It.
This is probably one of their very first hits, I think.
Mhm.
Or no, that was Do You Believe in Love? But If This Is It was a huge song for them, yeah.
Working for a Living was a big hit too for him.
Yeah, it was, yeah. If This Is It, this song for me, I don't know if it's because I've just heard it so many times. It's not, it didn't crack the top 5 or anything. This song is just middle of the road for me. It's talking about a breakup. If he wants to know if it's over, let me know, let me out. So relatable again, upbeat, not a super sappy song. So I think this one, I'll just keep it at, have I said 7 yet? I think I'll put it at 7.
I'm not taking notes.
Who knows? I love this whole album, so this was really hard for me to rank all of these songs.
This is my number 1. I'll just say that it's the one that I think pierces my armor for like I'm too cool for you, Huey. And then If This Is It comes on, I'm like, damn it, this is good. This is good. It's under 4 minutes. It's got that. This is a much better doo-wop song, I think, than
the doo-wop backgrounds are what hooks you in this whole song. I mean, that's what grabs you right away.
And I like his voice in it. Yeah. So this is the song. That's the track where I'm even when I'm totally have my guard up. I'm like, yeah, I like it. I like it. If This Is It, Matt. I'm guessing this is. Yep. We already had your number 1, but it was up there.
Yeah, it was a coin flip too. Like this on some occasions could be my number 1. It's a slower song than most, but it's not a softie, and it's not like super. It doesn't have like a lethargic pace. It moves around, and you're right. I love how you said it. It was like much better of the 2 doo-wop songs. And I think, in my opinion, this is Huey's best vocal performance. I think he sings it so well. On the
album or on every album?
On this album.
Yeah.
I think it's his best vocal, and I just love this song. As a matter of fact, this makes frequent playlists for me. I don't think I pick any other song off this album if I ever make a playlist for some sort, and I stick this one on all the time. It's just a change of pace song, but it doesn't bring the vibe and the mood of the occasion down. Like if I were to say Bad is Bad, like that brings everything just down so much for me. I love this song. It's my number 2.
Great song. So let's see if Matt's theory of the second to last song on any album being the worst track holds true, called You Crack Me Up. Does it crack you guys up? How about these guys?
This song is interesting because I've heard the backstory on this, and without knowing the backstory, listening to that song, it's a completely out of character song for the group. I think it doesn't sound anything like the other songs on the album. It kind of goes back to their punky kind of days a little bit from their very first album in the 1980. But the story, I guess, is that it was written about the song is about trying to stop somebody from driving home all wasted. And so the context is, you crack me up because you're trying to leave, like you're making me laugh because I'm not going to let you leave in your condition, So with that context, the message of the song kind of changes a little bit. So it's more of like, I don't know, some of these, it's an interesting way to present an issue through a fun, upbeat song, you know, that you wouldn't really know it unless you did some research into the history of the song like I did.
It's funny because it just feels like a generic party track to me. And this is the one where I'm like, okay, it feels like in any 1980s movie when the party breaks out at the right before the credits start rolling, this would start playing. And that's the kind of track I honestly don't like, but I liked other tracks less. So it is my wow, it's pretty high actually. My number 4. Why did I put that above? No, I'm switching. I'm calling an audible. This Heart and Soul is above this one. But I like how fast it is. But other than that, it just feels like generic 80s pop to me, or pop rock. I'm guessing it's in the middle for Matt too.
Yeah, it's my number 7 actually. This and Bad is Bad. I could kind of number 9 is sealed and secured. It's more to come on that.
Same.
But this is my number 7. To me, this kind of is like a lamer version of Finally Found a Home. They both are kind of up-tempo songs. And yeah, that's interesting though, the context of this song. I'm gonna have to look at the lyric sheet on that. But it just seems like a lazy ass song. Just like a total album filler. Do I like it? It's super catchy, but it's so disposable. Like, I don't know. It's not something that I would ever consider as I mean, is this album high art? No. And that's like the lowest common denominator. Like what makes this stuff so catchy and ear candy-ish though? That's just like taking it that's even going too lazy, I think. And I love this album, but yeah, it's number 7 for me. Could be number 8, but it's 7 today.
Track number 9 closes out the album. A cover, Honky Tonk Blues, Hank Williams. I have a feeling it's both of your guys' number 9.
This one is just 9 by default for me. That really, just because number 1, it's last on the album, and that's when I'm used to hearing it. So I just kept it there. And I don't hate this song by any means. And Jensen threw it under the bus in his first video that you referenced with good reason. I understand your reasoning for it. It's a totally out of character song. It's a throwaway track that doesn't really hold on to anything. He's thinking about having, honky tonk blues. It's basically a country song, and Huey Lewis and the News are not a country band. So it's kind of out of left field for him. But, I have it at the end just because that's where it is on the album.
Yeah. And for me, it's a lazy cover. It's AJ and I are both musicians. I mean, when you're like getting through the end of your night and you're looking at the last few songs that you haven't played and there's still a crowd and they want you to play some, sometimes you just throw out a freaking lazy ass blues song, and you jam on it. And the thing is, the piano soloing on this song is maybe one of my favorite instrumental parts of the whole album.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love a good blues, and I love like competent musicians jam. And you could just picture like Huey Lewis with his harmonica, the piano player just spanking.
And it's upbeat. It's got a great tempo to it. It's not a slow, honky tonk by any means.
But it's a cover, and it's like just a standard blues song. And it like, I wouldn't even consider this to be, I mean, even if I don't like Bad is Bad, like that's at least he's writing a song. It's different enough. It's not just, I mean, that's like totally like phoning it in. Like, oh shit, we need to get one more song. We need to get one more song on this album.
We only have 8 tracks.
Let's just play Honky Tonk Blues for 5 minutes. Come on, man.
Yeah.
They do it well, but it's not.
The definition
and
of
I think
filler.
there's something to be said about what you said about it. It's probably a better song to bust out live than it is to put on an album.
Yes.
Just because it, like you said, it's a cover, but there's still energy, but people aren't really going to appreciate it on your album.
Yeah, you got it. So Jacob, where do you have it?
I have it at number 7, just because they're not singing about playing. Well, I guess they are singing a little. Well, I don't know. I just thought it'd be funnier to put the other songs below it. I know it's a lesser song, and it's the definition of better to close it out there. But I have to be a little contrarian when possible. So overall, that was a fun discussion of Huey Lewis and the News.
Yes.
I don't know if yeah, I'm gonna keep the record. I'm not gonna sell it back to the store or give it back.
You could mail it to me if you wanted.
Or I'll give it to AJ.
I have mine somewhere, but they're all in storage.
I do have some 45s for AJ. So
Did you know Mobile Fidelity has actually printed a copy of Sports, and I guess it goes for like 60 or 70, which for you know, a Mobile Fidelity MoFi record from the 80s, that's a pretty good deal. But apparently it sounds amazing. Like,
Wow.
sometimes the MoFi stuff, you know, the audiophile quality stuff, they're like 4 or 5 times the price, but they maybe sound marginally better. Apparently this is one of the like biggest improvements of the original record. Anybody who loves this album, you got to get a copy of the MoFi Mobile Fidelity rendition.
Well, I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, Discogs. I think I saw it for like going for like $60.
There's your MoFi plug.
well, we'll have you back for Picture This and the Ghostbusters soundtrack, AJ.
That sounds great. I also would like to request maybe a track by track ranking of another forgotten album of the 80s, Bruce Willis and the Return of Bruno.
To the Return of Bruno.
Please, come on. Nobody knows he even did that album, I bet.
Sometimes I had to listen to this to come up with the ranking. I'm not listening to.
Oh my gosh.
Great.
That's my dream episode, Jacob, right there.
The people should subscribe to Matt's channel to find out what album we are going to next. Thank you, AJ.
Thank you guys. This was very fun. I hope to do it again.